Today, my group and I will be talking about continental Central America. My name is Ana Leon, and I'm working with Crystal Campos and Joana Santillan. Today, so for my first slide, I have approximate whereabouts of the region. This region is the narrow stretch of land that connects North America to South America. It lies between Mexico to the north of Colombia to the south. The entire region is bordered by the Pacific Ocean on the west and the Caribbean Sea on the east. Most of Central America is located between 8 and 18 degrees north of the equator. This means that it's mainly a tropical region with warm temperatures throughout the year. Because of its location, it's known as a land bridge that connects two continents, and it also supports a huge amount of biodiversity. Next, I will be talking about nations and major capitals. Continental Central America includes 7 major countries. Starting from the north, there is Guatemala, and the capital of this country is Guatemala City. Next is Belize, with the capital Belmopan. Moving more down, we have El Salvador, whose capital is San Salvador, and Honduras, whose capital is Tegucigalpa. Below Honduras is Nicaragua, and the capital here is Managua. And then we have Costa Rica with the capital of San Jose. Finally, we have Panama, which is grouped with Central America because it connects the region to South America. The capital of Panama is Panama City. These capitals are major political, cultural, and economic centers for their countries. Next, I'm going to be talking about landforms, rivers, lakes, and climate. Continental Central America has very diverse physical features. The region is famous for its mountains, such as the Sierra Madre de Chiapas, the Cordillera Central, and the Cordillera de Talamanca. A major feature is the Central American Volcanic Arc, which includes many active volcanoes. Along the coasts, you'll find narrow coastal plains next to the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean. There are also important river systems. Some of the biggest rivers include the Usumacinta River, the Motagua River, the Rio Coco, and the San Juan River, which forms part of the border between Nicaragua and Costa Rica. For lakes, the most famous is Lake Nicaragua, the largest in all of Central America. There's also Lake Managua, Lake Atitlan, and Lake Izabal. The climate in this region is mostly tropical, meaning it stays warm all year. Instead of 4 seasons, Central America has a wet season and a dry season. On the Caribbean, there are large areas of tropical rainforest, while the higher elevations are cooler. The region is also prone to hurricanes and heavy storms. Next, finally, my slide will be talking about major resource bases. Central America's resources play a huge role in its economy. Agriculture is one of the most important sectors. The region grows crops like coffee, bananas, sugarcane, corn, beans, and cocoa. Many of these products are exported around the world. Forestry is also a huge resource in this region. The tropical hardwoods and large areas of protected biodiversity are all included. The surrounding oceans provide rich fishing resources, especially for coastal communities. Some countries have minerals such as gold, silver, and nickel. Hydropower is another major resource here because of the fast moving rivers in the mountains. Central America also has potential for geothermal energy because it sits on volcanic land. Finally, tourism is one of the region's growing resource bases. Visitors come from the beaches, rainforests, and national parks, making tourism a major source of income. Next, I will be passing the presentation on to my groupmate.
So, Central America today has around 50 million people in total, and something that really stands out is how young the population is. In some of these countries, almost half of the people are under 30, which means there's a lot of future growth and potential. But it also means there's like a demand for more schools, jobs, and housing. Another thing that's happening is a large movement from rural farming areas into the cities. People are looking for better paying jobs, better education, and overall different lifestyle. Because of that, we're seeing cities grow really fast, and it's exciting for the economic development, but it can also lead to issues like overcrowding and traffic. So overall, Central America's population is growing and changing quickly, and that shapes a lot of what goes on socially and economically. So out of the 7 countries in continental Central America, Guatemala has the biggest population, which is about 18 million people. Its capital, Guatemala City, is also the largest and the busiest city in the region, and it's a major cultural and economic center. Then we also have Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador, each with around 6 to 10 million people. Their capitals are cities like Tegucigalpa, Managua, and San Salvador, which are super important places where a lot of business, education, and government activity happens. I also want to mention Panama City. Even though Panama isn't the biggest country population-wise, Panama is very modern and plays a huge role in the global trade thanks to the Panama Canal. All these cities show how the region is becoming more urban. People are moving in, cities are expanding, and life in Central America is becoming more centered around these major urban areas. One of the coolest parts of Central America is its history, especially the Maya civilization. They built amazing cities like Tikal in Guatemala and Copan in Honduras, and they were very advanced in their math, writing, and even tracking the stars. A lot of that culture can still be seen today. And then during the 1500s, the Spanish arrived and took control. Because of that colonization, the Spanish became the main language, and Catholicism became the main religion. Over time, though, the countries fought for their independence, and in the 1800s, it became their own nations. More recently, in the late 1900s, some countries did experience civil wars and political conflict. So even today, some places are still rebuilding from that period, from those wars. But despite the struggles, Central America did have a strong cultural identity and a very deep connection to its indigenous roots and traditions. So even though Spanish is the most common language across Central America, the region does have a lot of language diversity. There are many of indigenous languages that are still spoken, especially in Guatemala and parts of Honduras. Belize is actually a unique one. English is the official language there, and it's very widely spoken as well. In terms of religion, Catholicism has been the main one since Spanish times, like talked about in the previous slide. But something interesting is that evangelical churches have grown a lot in the last few decades as well. And even with these major religions, a lot of indigenous traditions still are a part of festivals and local culture. So overall, the regions, languages, and religions show that Central America is a mix of different histories and cultures, and that's a big part of what makes it very special.
In continental Central America, they value their religion, which is why they created religious festivals, often combined with Catholic and indigenous traditions, to create celebrations like Semana Santa, known as Holy Week, that has to do with the death and resurrection of Jesus, as well as El Día de los Muertos, aka Day of the Dead, where people celebrate the beauty of death. The music is also vibrant, which is created with the use of the marimba, a popular instrument from Guatemala, and the use of other instruments like drums, flutes, and percussion throughout the region. Some other popular dances include merengue, salsa, and bachata. The political structures in continental Central America are known as democratic erosions, with the inclusion of powerful elites and dictatorships in places like Nicaragua and also almost El Salvador. There's political organizations as well, like Central American Integration System, CICA, Central American Bank for Economic Integration, BCIE, and the United Nations that contribute to these political structures. And some political issues that happen in Central America are corruption, organized crime, distrust in the government, and immigration. The economic organization consists of it being structured in agricultural commodity exports, as well as having the Dominican Republic Central America Free Trade Agreement with the United States. There's also remittances where migrant workers send money, and also the informal economy. For economic developmental issues, there's inequality and poverty, violence and insecurity, climate change, lack of employment, and corrupt governments. For level of developments, Costa Rica and Panama are considered in higher development, along with El Salvador, which is considered middle income, and on the bottom we have Honduras, Guatemala, and Nicaragua, which are considered to be the poorest countries in Central America. Social issues in Central America are created by already existing hierarchies and have increased with modern problems like inequality, violence, and corruption. This creates limited economic opportunities that lead to high rates of social exclusion and immigration. Class and power is a corrupt system that determines social status and political power, which creates an ongoing social divide in Central America. With this, there's also corruption, making it difficult for government to provide help and effectively solve social problems, as well as violence that includes gangs and drugs, which contribute to extreme levels of insecurity, and obviously inequality, which leaves a large portion of the population in poverty.